see if I can find this on my computer so I can see what you guys are saying. Let me see. Is anybody even here yet? Let me know. Oh, look. There's the live video. Okay, so since we are dead right now, I will just start talking about my experience so far with Saturn retrograde, which has not been great. So far, Saturn retrograde has happened. What happened exactly? I'm trying to think of the first thing that happened. I think on the first day Saturn went retrograde, I got written up at work. That was the first thing that happened. I got written up at work because I fell asleep on top of my phone, and my phone is what lets me know, that's where my alarm is, on my phone. So I fell asleep on top of my phone, and then I got written up at work. Then I got a mysterious Valentine's Day card that wasn't signed on my doorstep, and that creeped me out a lot. And then my auxiliary cable was stolen from my car. And then a fire started in my bush outside. And I'm now being blamed for it. Now being blamed for the fire in the bush outside of my apartment. Even though I'm actually freaked out because this happened shortly after the Valentine's Day card, the mysterious Valentine's Day card. So, yeah, that's been my Saturn retrograde so far. How has yours been? If anybody's even here. Let's see what's going on here. Anybody there? Saturn retrograde started on April 17th, if you weren't aware. So I'm just going to start talking about Saturn retrograde a little bit since you guys aren't going to talk. Saturn retrograde. Anything retrograde is pretty much going to be internalizing the energy of that planet. So while Saturn is retrograde, you're going to be experiencing the energy of Saturn internally. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's only happening on an internal level. Basically, Saturn's energy is corrective. So it corrects you when you've been slacking in some way, you've been doing things that are wrong or not tying up your loose ends. That's when Saturn is going to correct you. However, with it retrograde, it can be even more intense. Even though it's happening on a more internal level, it's basically having things happen on the external level, or bringing things that are inside of you to the external level so that you're kind of forced to go within and change things that you've been doing wrong in your life. So I've pretty much felt like I was a victim to Saturn during past retrogrades because it's been so intense, and because I just didn't learn my lesson, and I thought, oh my god, poor me, every Saturn retrograde, bad things are just gonna happen to me, oh my goodness. But that's not exactly accurate. What's accurate is that if I'd been listening and I'd been paying attention when Saturn tried to correct me and tried to teach me something, I wouldn't be having the problems that I've been having. So this time around, it kind of sucks even more because I'm sitting here thinking, okay, well, it's kind of my own doing that this is happening to me right now. So the key with Saturn retrograde is to have conscious attention. So give it your conscious attention. Whatever Saturn is trying to teach you, and it will teach you things. I mean, literally, I was going from a very uneventful life to all these events happening within just a week since Saturn has been retrograde. Well, a little more than a week. But just since Saturn's been retrograde, I've had all these issues. And it's like, I mean, I could have corrected this stuff before Saturn went in retrograde. I could have thought, gee, I'm being kind of negligent, I'm being kind of trashy, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and I need to correct this so that Saturn retrograde doesn't mess my whole life up. But I didn't do that, and now I'm suffering the consequences, and I think I'm handling it the right way this time, because instead of deciding that I'm a victim, I am looking at the circumstances that I'm in, and I'm deciding to make a change, because that's really what Saturn wants you to do. If you play the victim and you roll over and think, you know, poor you, why is this happening to you? Saturn's so mean every time. You're not going to learn the lessons, and it's going to happen the same way next year. And all the time in between now and next year too. So, I talked about this a little bit in a post that I wrote recently. Saturn and all the planets. So, really what needs to happen during a transit is that you need to become the energy of that planet. So, ever heard the old adage, as above, so below? That is 100% truth. And basically when you are experiencing something in your reality, and you'll understand this if you understand the law of attraction. That's a very basic, the law of attraction is a very basic interpretation of this principle, but as above, so below basically just calls your attention to the fact that everything that you're experiencing in this paper-thin outer reality that we live in is a manifestation of what's inside of you. So you're going to be seeing what's inside of you. Everything that happens to you during this retrograde or otherwise, you should be thinking, what is inside of me that is causing this to happen right now? What needs to be worked on? What can I fix? What can I change? That's what's going to give you an easier Saturn retrograde. So just really pay attention to what happens during this time. Pay attention to what comes into your experience. And, you know, try to understand what Saturn is teaching you through that experience. And instead of letting Saturn happen to you, be a conscious player. Play consciously with Saturn. So, say, Saturn is in my 7th house right now. So since Saturn is in my 7th house, and it's retrograde, actually, even when it's in direct motion, but especially when it's retrograde, the 7th house rules relationships, one-on-one relationships, partnerships, etc. So, in the realm of my relationships, what needs to happen for me right now is I need to play the part of Saturn. I need to act like Saturn. I need to embody the energy of Saturn. And by doing that, I can avoid the negative repercussions of Saturn retrograde, largely. I mean, you know, it's not going to be perfect. I'm still going to learn things. Saturn's always going to teach you things that you didn't know you needed to be taught, but it's going to be a lot easier. Another thing that happened, I got pulled over and issued a ticket. That happened too, since Saturn has been retrograde. And I was just chilling. I was just chilling up until Saturn went retrograde, and all of a sudden, here I am. So, Saturn in Capricorn specifically. Like, is anybody saying anything? Like, I don't see any comments or anything. Raise your hand, like the video or something. Let me know you're here. So Saturn in Capricorn. Saturn, while it's in Capricorn, is basically correcting the energy of Capricorn. Saturn is going to be correcting and doing away with whatever it's, whatever sign it's in. So with Saturn in Capricorn, thank you, Nicholas. That's good to know. With Saturn in Capricorn, basically, Capricorn is a sign that is concerned with structure, authority, rules. Most of you know what the energy of Capricorn entails. Basically, Capricorn is the father of the zodiac. It's, this really, it's the disciplinarian. People tend to think of Saturn as, mean old dad, one who's always punishing you for doing bad things. Saturn isn't mean old dad, you're Saturn. Anyway, so Saturn in Capricorn, this is at home. Saturn rules Capricorn. Saturn is that restrictive, corrective influence, and, Capricorn is that restrictive, corrective influence. So with Saturn in Capricorn, we're seeing a lot of, first of all, Jupiter went into Scorpio. That was one thing that happened. Jupiter went into Scorpio, and immediately things started coming to light. We had the Me Too movement, we had all kinds of deep, dark, evil mostly sexual secrets exposed when Jupiter went into Scorpio. And then Saturn went into Capricorn, and basically everybody who's in a position of authority is not immune to this influence, because anyone who's in a position of authority is pretty much who Saturn is targeting. You know, anything that has been a structure, anything we accept as, you know, structure in our lives. So this can be institutions like marriage, this can be the presidency, this can be anything that is, you know, a traditional structure in our culture. Anything that is anything or anyone who is a, you know, power player, anyone who's in a position of authority, these are the people who are going to be particularly targeted by Saturn in Capricorn. And you can see this all over the place. You know, we've got, you know, Trump under investigation. We've got all these people who've been in a position of authority having their reputation just thrown to the wolves because of things that they've done in the past. And, you know, their entire reputation is pretty much gone to crap since Saturn has gone into Capricorn. Saturn in the 7th house, do you mean by transit, like during Saturn retrograde in Capricorn, or do you mean in the birth chart, Malka? Let me know what you're asking. Saturn in the 7th house in the birth chart, there's really no bad placement for Saturn. It's just showing you where you have lessons to learn and where you have karma that is going to be worked out in this life. Generally, Saturn in the 7th house shows that you won't be married until later in life. Or you might marry someone older. Generally, though, it's not a great placement for marrying young, because Saturn is age. So you're going to have the best marital experience by waiting until after your first Saturn return, at the very least, to get married or enter into a committed relationship. Oh, awesome, Paige. How do you think that's gonna go? I mean, that makes sense, Saturn going backwards in Capricorn. So yeah, we're also going to be experiencing a lot more correction from actual authority figures. So, you know, like I said, there is a fire here at my apartment and they're trying to blame it on me. And that's, you know, that's one of the authority figures in my life, my landlords. So they are coming after me hard, and yep, I'm gonna have to just deal with it, because I can't prove that it wasn't me, and it sucks. So we're going to be experiencing a lot more, I don't want to say oppression, because pretty much if Saturn retrograde brings something to your attention, that means that it is, that means that it's like something that you haven't been paying attention to, that you should have been paying attention to. So me taking the blame for this fire, I'm just gonna have to eat it, because I can't prove that it wasn't me, and they think it was me because of you know, negligence on my part. So oh, okay, Malka. I thought you meant in the birth chart. So Saturn retrograde in the 7th house by transit is basically bringing up issues regarding your one-on-one personal relationships that need your attention. So you might be experiencing some, actually people who come into your life at this time might be a little bit dry. They might be a little bit Saturnian, and they might be a little bit cold. I don't know about cold, but it might feel like there's a little bit of a barrier in some way, or they're teaching you something. And sometimes if you're dealing with somebody who's not very conscious and someone who is playing out repetitive behaviors in their own life, then you will probably be dealing with drama and trauma regarding this relationship or person in order to learn the Saturn in the 7th house lessons. So that's fun. Guys, this is casual, so, you know, just talk, ask questions, whatever. just sit here, saying nothing, doing nothing. Anybody got any questions about Saturn retrograde? Or anything, if you have nothing else to say. This is good. Angry Orchard, hard cider. Thought I'd throw that out there. It's yum. Don't have nothing to say. So, Saturn and all of the planets. I've been thinking a lot lately about how your transits are pretty much calling attention to where you need to embody a certain energy. I've been thinking a lot about that and paying a lot more attention to things that happen to me. And, oh, nice, Sam. What kind of cider are you drinking? Thinking a lot about how the things that happen in my life pretty much directly correlate to my transits, and how I could have avoided those events if they're negative. How I could have avoided those things happening had I been a conscious participant and embodied the energy of that planet. So I've been noticing that a lot since Saturn went into Capricorn. Not retrograde, but just into Capricorn. Since it went into Capricorn, I lost a relationship that I knew I probably should not have been in. And that was the first thing that happened with Saturn entering Capricorn. So that was classic Saturn in the 7th house stuff. If you're in a relationship, when Saturn enters Capricorn, or Saturn enters your 7th house, and you know you shouldn't be in that relationship, Saturn's going to take it away. Saturn, the things you experience with Saturn retrograde are almost always going to be, they're almost always going to be things that you knew you shouldn't have been doing to begin with. So you're just kind of experiencing the consequences of your own self ignoring those things and not correcting them on your own. Blackthorn Reserve. I never even heard of that. Is that good? Transiting the 11th. So Saturn transiting the 11th house. I mean, first of all, there's a couple things that can happen with Saturn transiting the 11th house. So the 11th house is the house of group associations, humanitarianism, traditionally tied to the sign of Aquarius. So it's also about your friendships. With Saturn transiting the 11th house, there's a lot of energy from Saturn focused into your social life, your social associations, your group associations, as well as your humanitarian causes. So the things that you really tie yourself to on a social level. So the 11th house can indicate, humanitarianism, but it can also be correcting certain ideas and beliefs that you have that really tie you to these humanitarian causes and tie you to these ideologies that are really just fluff, or they're just a little extra. They're causing you to kind of turn your attention away from what really matters in the situation, and instead you're focusing on all this peripheral stuff. So for instance, Saturn in the 11th house could be correcting putting way too much energy into like social justice warrior type activities. And not that there's anything wrong with social justice. I'm all for social justice, but there can be a little bit over drama, melodrama associated with social justice warriors and the things that they defend. We should really be defending equality for everyone. And sometimes, heavy 11th house, heavy Aquarius, whatever, can really just overdo it. With Saturn entering the 11th house, it'll be correcting a lot of those things and helping you focus on what is really important about those issues. And as far as your friendships go, there might be some trials and tribulations regarding your friendships. You might feel that some friends are drifting out of your life, that you might feel that, something about those friendships is somehow a corrective influence for you. So you might be experiencing distance in those friendships. You might be experiencing, a friend who's a little too much, a friend who's just bringing your attention to things that need to be corrected about the way you interact with people, the things that you associate yourself with, and the people you associate yourself with. That's going to be pretty important for Saturn retrograde through the 11th house. Also, you might be reevaluating some of your goals, because 11th house is also about your long-term vision and what you see for the future. So with Saturn in the 11th house, you might be really reevaluating some of your long-term goals and reevaluating where you want to go, where you want to end up. Paige, I think any of the planets that are in the early degrees of Capricorn within the first 10 degrees, so Capricorn, Aries, Libra, Cancer, those are all going to be more affected, especially if you have planets in those signs in the early degrees, because that means that Saturn is going to be making a hard aspect to those. It'll be affecting some other signs as well, so a lot of the yin signs are going to be aspected by Saturn retrograde, but they're going to be positive aspects, so they might not be as in your face as the aspects that are going to happen with the cardinal signs in an early degree. Aquarius shouldn't be making any particularly prominent aspects to Aquarius. The only thing that it could be forming is a semi-sextile, so not particularly. Oh, how's that feeling for you, Sam? So, yeah, it shouldn't be doing anything much to Aquarius. The only thing I would say about Aquarius is that you might have some planets in Capricorn, and if those are early degree especially, they will be affecting you during the retrograde for sure. I'm kind of happy because Saturn was forming an aspect, an exact square to my midheaven internal coli axis, and then when it went retrograde, it started fading. So that's nice. At least I won't have that going on during the retrograde. You're not sure? It sounds about right for Neptune, Sam. So Paige, do you have any planets in early cardinal signs? Thank Jeebus. My sun is at 15 degrees Aries. So, yeah, that's nice. I missed it. I missed that square during the retrograde. Time for me to take a drink. Oh, right now it is? How's that feeling for you, Paige? Saturn retrograde in the natal of 29 Pisces. It shouldn't be aspecting anything. When it gets closer to, the early degrees of Capricorn, which it will, it might be forming like a wide square, but by transit, that's not really going to be super potent, so I wouldn't really worry about that. You've already had Saturn square Saturn when it was at the end of Sagittarius, probably in about October. I think it was October, so that it, sometime around there. I think it was, I have to go back and look. I think it was October or so that it entered into Capricorn. So when it was at late degree Sagittarius is when you would have had Saturn square Saturn by transit. I think that the fact that you have Saturn retrograde in the natal is good for you, because what happens when you have Saturn retrograde in the natal is that more than likely your parents weren't a very stable influence in your life. They weren't really the adults. You kind of had to be the adult in some ways. So you kind of internalize the energy of Saturn. So with Saturn retrograde in your natal chart, you're kind of constantly taking responsibility for yourself anyway. You're kind of turning that restrictive, disciplinarian energy of Saturn inward. And while this can be difficult for you because you're kind of very self-critical and you've got all this, that heavy Saturn retrograde influence in your chart, you're kind of ahead of the game as far as Saturn retrograde by transit is concerned, because when Saturn goes retrograde by transit, you've already pretty much taken care of your stuff, so I think you're in a pretty decent position having Saturn retrograde in your natal chart. You've probably got your ducks in a row already, so you're not going to be experiencing anything too terrible. Whereas those of us with Saturn direct are having to learn. We're having to learn real fast and real hard. That's good. That's what Saturn is supposed to do. Make you grow. Squaring and opposing your rising and Jupiter. So that means it's forming a square to your ascendant. That would mean it's also forming a square to your descendant. So your relationship should also come into focus during this retrograde. That's good, Martha. Another thing I wanted to say that I didn't really talk about before is that you will be particularly affected by the Saturn retrograde and by Saturn in general, but particularly during the retrograde, certain things seem to come up. Whatever houses are ruled by Capricorn and Aquarius might be themes during your Saturn retrograde. So for me, that is the 7th and the 8th house. I've got Capricorn on my 7th house and Aquarius on my 8th house. Saturn is the traditional ruler of Aquarius, and those themes will come up during your Saturn retrograde, the Saturn retrograde transit. So it's kind of bringing the energy, Saturn being this particular house's chart, this particular house's ruler is bringing kind of the energy of that house to whatever house it's transiting during this transit. So for me, it's going to be 7th and 8th house themes that I'm experiencing during Saturn retrograde in particular. So it's almost kind of like a Pluto transit when I've got Saturn going into my 7th house. So Saturn retrograde in my 7th house being my 7th house, my 7th house ruler and my 8th house ruler is similar to a Pluto transit. So a lot of, I tend to experience a lot of 8th house trauma during the summer because that's when Saturn typically goes retrograde. So got all this 8th house stuff coming up during Saturn retrograde, which is why I kind of freaked out when I saw that Valentine on my door. Saturn conjunct Neptune, opposite Jupiter. Are you talking about your natal or your or by transit, Kate? And Martha, are you talking about your natal or transit? Gonna have to be specific up in here. Hey Jennifer. How you doing, young lady? Ooh, ouch. So I had Saturn conjunct my moon. And Saturn conjunct my moon, I think in December, exact. And trust me, it actually wasn't nearly as bad as Saturn retrograde last year. Saturn retrograde last year kicked my ass. Hola. So yeah, Saturn conjunct my moon wasn't even that bad. Saturn conjunct Neptune. I feel like that would be like, it would be kind of like correcting your delusions and illusions. Where's Neptune in your chart, Kate? Saturn is going to be correcting Neptune. It's going to be bringing structure to that which does not want structure. Oh yeah, Jennifer. Yeah, it just entered my 7th house when it went into Capricorn. Oh, you've got Saturn conjunct Neptune in your 4th, Kate? My moon is in Sagittarius, 6th house. Have you felt that, Jennifer? Have you felt the energy of Saturn in your 7th house? Well, at least Pluto and Mars going into your 8th house are kind of at home. Both traditionally, or Mars traditionally rules the 8th house. Thank you. I like Sagittarius moon myself. It hasn't? Have you felt those planets in your 8th house yet? Oh my goodness. How does that feel for you, Kelsey? It's going to square my Aries sun after it goes direct, so that's going to be a good while for me, thank goodness. Not feeling it yet? Well, that's good. Just really, really important to remember during Saturn retrograde that whatever happens is literally a reflection of what's inside of you and what you haven't corrected. Because Saturn is correcting what you refuse to correct. Literally. I mean, it's that little voice inside of you that thinks, I really should do this, I really should do this, I really should do this, but you're not doing it. Yeah, when Saturn goes retrograde, you're gonna do it. Because Saturn will mess your life up unless you do. The kind of, like, things start to happen that show you, you haven't been paying attention to this, and you could have, and now you're going to, and you're going to do it the hard way. Aw, I'm sorry, Kelsey. That makes sense. Kind of makes sense with Saturn, especially because it's the square. It'd feel really heavy. And it'd probably be kind of like an assault on your ego, too. Feel really like... You'd feel really self-critical. Is he married, Jennifer? Or in a relationship or anything? Do you expect anything to happen? It's hot in here. It's been like chilly today and I'm like freaking hot. Yeah, thanks, Kelsey. Yeah, it's real. It needs a trim. It's like dead ends are looking nasty. But yeah, it's real. Yeah, I'm feeling like I'm getting a lot of good practice with these Saturn retrogrades for when I have my Saturn return. I think in like 2 years. So, like Saturn retrograde is showing me how to use the energy of Saturn and how to work with it instead of denying it. And yeah, got my Saturn return in Aquarius coming up, so I feel like I'm learning. I feel like I'm learning through these retrogrades how to do all this. How to handle Saturn most effectively. anybody else immediately start getting anxiety when Saturn entered Capricorn last year? Yeah, I think this was before you came in, Jennifer, but we were talking about how Saturn retrograde in the natal chart isn't going to be feeling it as much because you're already internalizing the energy of Saturn. So you're already pretty much getting your ducks in a row before it gets that bad, pretty much. Like, Saturn retrograde natally is, it's basically you internalizing the energy because your parents aren't, they aren't super structured and they aren't really the adults, so you have to kind of be your own adult, you have to be your own Saturnian influence, and then, so then you internalize that Saturnian energy, and you can be a really hard worker, really responsible, and you feel it less when Saturn goes retrograde because everybody else with Saturn direct is kind of scrambling, learning their lessons during Saturn retrograde, whereas you've already pretty much got your ducks in a row. So that's the positive about having Saturn retrograde in your natal. It doesn't affect you quite as much when you experience it by transit. Yeah, Jennifer, I've never had anxiety that I know of, and immediately when Saturn went into Capricorn, I started having panic attacks. It was nuts. I never experienced panic attacks. Saturn enters Capricorn, and suddenly the room is growing around me, and I'm hyperventilating. It was nuts. Oh, that's fantastic, Kelsey. The conjunctions aren't that bad. Yeah, I feel like you might be doing away with some of the spiritual fluff, things that maybe like you want to believe but aren't really practical for you. It can really ground you with Saturn conjunct Jupiter in your 12th house. It's going to be great. Yeah, it was nuts, Jennifer. I've never had a panic attack, and then suddenly it was just insane. Saturn, 6th house. Oof, Saturn in your 6th house. Do you feel like you've had coworkers kind of come into your experience who, or, bosses, be really restrictive with you, kind of watching you, any difficulties at work? Because that's kind of what happened to me. When Saturn was in Sagittarius, it was in my 6th house, like that. And pretty much, Sagittarius is all about freedom. My freedom felt very restricted while Saturn was in Sagittarius, and I felt like I was constantly being watched by my employers. I was constantly being criticized by them. I felt like I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Hey, Brandon. That's awesome, Kelsey. Fantastic. Aw, thank you, Abby. That's so nice. I feel special. Yeah, I've got my moon in the 6th house. I feel that. It's like, especially because it's in Sagittarius. Sagittarius doesn't want that routine. Hey, Brandon. Sagittarius doesn't want that routine, but it needs that routine when it's in the 6th house. So it's like constant struggle right there. Old Sag moon ass. Yep, that's me. So it's been quite the dilemma. Oh yeah? So they've been like actually watching you? So it sounds like they actually liked what they saw and wanted to give you more responsibility because of that, if I'm correct. Am I correct? If I had something to do all the time, I would do it. Like, if I had the freedom to do it all the time and I could just party and be a socialite and go adventuring, yeah, I totally would. I feel like I've been given my daughter to anchor me a little bit because I can't just do that. But yeah, yeah, we're pretty much like that. We definitely love a good time. Sometimes a little too much. In the 6th house, yeah, we are a trip. Definitely interesting. We have a hard time, and it's really difficult because I have Taurus Venus, which really wants stability, and you know, Sagittarius, which wants the opposite of stability. We want to do whatever we want to do whenever we want to do it. And Taurus Venus is like, no, you know, stay at home, you know, do something relaxing, you know. Find someone stable. But Sagittarius moon is very much like, nope, gonna do my own thing, whatever that thing happens to be. So how's Saturn treating you, Brandon, in Capricorn? Come on now. Somebody talk to me. How about you, Sam? What's going on? Oh yeah, definitely, Jennifer. Absolutely. Definitely have attention span issues. Because, like, you know, Sagittarius and Gemini share that problem. Can't hold our attention on something very long. Gemini, because they just have a limited attention span, and Sagittarius, because they don't want to be tied to anything. So it's just, yeah, you move along very quickly. My raising is Cancer. Good guess, though. It's my secondary first house. How's that feel, Abby? Is he always traveling, Jennifer? Yeah, everybody sees the Cancer ascendant because I look soft. Ugh. My fiery stuff does not like that Cancer ascendant. They're gonna have to make peace with it though, because that's the way it is. Ain't going nowhere. Always gonna have that moon face. Yeah, that's a good idea. It's actually a good idea. Let's see, maybe I can put some music on, actually. What do you guys like to listen to? Anybody got any ideas? Yeah, actually I'm in the Pisces Deacon of Cancer, so that makes sense. Massive Attack. Oh, I think I like Massive Attack. I think I've listened to them. Hold on. Repeated history of double the work and no payoff. Then things switched up and I was given a healthy reminder that I've been doing what I'm supposed to. Awesome. That's fantastic. What's Base Nectar? Yes, it is. Venus in the 11th house. I love it. I love Venus in the 11th house. Everybody's always like, friends suck. Everybody's evil. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, friends are awesome. I love friends. Space. What's Massive Attack? I know I've listened to Massive Attack before. Oh. Voodoo in My Blood. That's it. I'm putting on YouTube, so give me just a second. I'm gonna listen to this ad. Play piano. Anybody like Father John Misty? and play piano in the chateau lobby. Turn it down a little bit. Voodoo, my blood is living. Blood take, I'm chilling. Jimmy got the soul of a mimic. Not quite right, you must be silly. I don't know about duads page. I feel like that's kind of reaching just a little bit. I mean, I feel like it's reaching just a little bit to worry about duads, but I do think that deacons are important. A lot of times, like, I'll look at someone and think that they're a Sagittarius. I get real Sagittarius vibes, and turns out they're in a Sagittarius deacon of a fire sign, like Aries or Leo. But yeah, I definitely feel like Sagittarius energy from somebody who has, you know, their sun in a Sagittarius deacon or something like that. A lot of people will guess my rising is Pisces because my rising is in a Pisces deacon of Cancer. I'm in the Leo deacon of Aries, so people guess Leo for me a lot too. You can just really feel the energy. Once you learn to discern the energy, you can really kind of tell, you know, what deacon someone might be in or something like that. I love this song. Keep the front door open. Oh yeah, are you Cancer rising? Do you say your name Natasha or Natisha? How do you say that? Recently had a small epiphany with duads though. One of my friends always gave me Pisces vibes. He was 4 planets in a Pisces duad. That's interesting. You didn't have any like 12th house or Neptune stuff going on? Because that's what I would like think. I was kind of identified with some Libra traits, and I think my sun is in a Libra duad. I just never got really super into it. Felt like I was like, for me it felt like I was reaching to like associate myself with a sign that I wasn't actually associated with when I started worrying about duads, if that makes any sense. Okay, Natisha, okay. Oh, that sucks. Yeah, you'll need to figure that out to like know what you're really, like what kind of energy you're really picking up. Anybody else have any experience with duads? Oh yeah, Kelsey, it tripped me out too. Like, first time I watched this, like there's a part in this where something really jarring happens, and I'm watching the video, and for me I was just like, I just watched it. I was just like really chill while I watched it. I sent it to my friend Bethany, who is gone right now. Where are you, Bethany? Where are you? I sent it to her though, and she literally screamed when she got to that part. Anybody have experience with duads? Who wants to talk about their experience with Saturn retrograde so far? Talk to me, yo. Oh, that would mess me up. Thinking that Facebook had this creepy, evil laugh when you react to something. I'd be like, what the hell? This is Massive Attack, Sam. I put on this band that you wanted to listen to. You wanted this. Everybody give Bethany a hard time. She's gonna come back, and when she comes back, we need to give her a hard time. Oh, hey Bethany. Wow. Thanks for making your grand entrance again. Thanks for gracing us with your presence, Bethany. Have you never heard this, Sam? We all hate you, Bethany. It's got the girl from Gone Girl. I can't remember her name. It has the girl from Gone Girl in the video. Bethany is this Bethany girl who decided to leave me. We're in the sign of the house it was in. Oh, wow. That's interesting. Must be, like, it must really intensify that energy. I'm not saying there's nothing to duads, like, at all. I mean, clearly there was a reason that someone investigated this whole concept, but I don't know. It just felt like I wanted to have a certain sign's energy, and I was, like, reaching to have it. But, I mean, there might definitely be something to it. I just haven't, like, really looked into it a whole lot. I believe I'm a Libra Sun duad with Scorpio Moon duad of my Sag Moon, or something like that. And then, like, maybe, I think, either Sagittarius or Capricorn duad of my Venus, and a Pisces duad of my Mercury, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I know. Just in time. I definitely think that asteroids have a place in astrology, for sure. I think that the importance you give them, like, I see a lot of comments in these groups like, I have Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio, 5th house, or whatever. And I'm thinking, okay, but that really doesn't matter. It matters, because Lilith by sign is just not going to have a heavy impact. It's going to have an impact by aspect. It's going to be more important by what kind of relationship it has to other planets than it does by sign. So, like, I just read a lot of articles, you know, Lilith and Sagittarius means this and this and this. Not really. Like, Lilith is kind of something, like an energy that can be in your personality. Like, if you have some, like an asteroid really tightly conjunct a planet, it would definitely carry some weight. So you're going to want to look at the ones that are really tightly conjunct something. You're not going to want to look at, you know, some asteroid floating around somewhere unaspected in the middle of your 6th house or your 8th house or whatever. That's just, again, that's reaching. I don't like reaching with astrology to identify with something that I don't really identify with. I've got one of the Liliths conjunct something in my chart all over the place. So I identify with the energy of Lilith, but I'm not going to take any asteroid that, you know, would flatter me to have it somewhere prominent in my chart and just be like, oh, I have Lilith, or I have, you know, Eris, and whatever asteroid you're thinking of. You know, I'm not going to try to make that a thing in my chart when it's really not, because it would only really have prominence by aspect. I think it can be important by house, but it's going to be more important by aspect. So, for instance, I have my moon conjunct Black Moon Lilith in my 6th house. So, it's really going to be drawing more attention to my 6th house than just Lilith in my 6th house by itself because of that conjunction. So I'm feeling the energy of Black Moon Lilith in my 6th house because it's prominent somewhere already by aspect. I wouldn't necessarily be feeling it, with Lilith just kind of floating around in my 6th house. Yeah, see, Pan conjunct Venus, that would be something a little more prominent because it's really tightly, is it tightly conjunct Venus? It has to be kind of tight with asteroids. But yeah, it's, with a conjunction like that, it would be prominent. That would be something that you could feel. Yeah, see, that's another thing. If you want to worry about asteroids, you kind of want to add one at a time, and it should be tight. Like, you want to worry about one asteroid at a time, kind of add that to your chart. You don't want to get overwhelmed. just kind of put it in there. Yeah, it very well could be, Sam. That's, yeah. I'm not gonna even go there. If I'm being honest, I'm just not gonna go there. Yeah, see, that would be something to pay attention to, because conjunction is a super strong aspect, and, you know, it's a tight aspect. So, yeah, you would want to pay attention to asteroids like that are really tightly conjunct something, but not, you know, just having, you know, Pan floating around in the middle of one of your houses. Like, it just doesn't really matter that much unless it's prominent. I should do a video at some point on the things that really annoy me about astrology. Yeah. It seems like Sam's running away from something. So what asteroids do you guys have in a prominent position in your chart? I have Black Moon Lilith conjunct my moon, Asteroid Lilith on my midheaven, and some of these like little Liliths, the other ones I don't consider as important, conjunct my Mars, and the other one is also conjunct my moon. There is some debate about that. A lot of people consider it a planetoid, like a dwarf planet, and some people still consider it an asteroid. I feel like it functions like a planet. I would give Chiron more prominence than I would other, you know, asteroids. And Nessus as well is a dwarf planet, so I give that a little more prominence as well, by aspect. You have issues with your dad, Sam? Chiron opposite Saturn? No, it's either a asteroid or a dwarf planet, I believe. Not a comet, as far as I know, to my knowledge. Anybody got any asteroids in some place special? I've got Eris conjunct my sun and Pan conjunct my sun. Interesting that you brought up Pan, Natisha. Got Pan conjunct my sun. I am quite the hedonist, although it's hard to separate that from the hedonism of Sagittarius moon and Taurus Venus. You really should, Jennifer. There's some interesting ones. Arrows is one that I like to pay attention to, especially when it comes to synastry and relationships. Throwing Eros in there, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see, like, who's idealizing who. That's interesting, Sam. Feel like you have any particular way you've seen that play out? It sounds like something that would be like a little configuration that would be pretty conducive to power plays in romance and other activities. You should try the other Liliths too, Jennifer. Black Moon Lilith is kind of like the sexual Lilith, the one that everybody loves to talk about. Yeah, they have to hit personal planets. I don't particularly like looking at aspects between two asteroids because, like, neither one of them are very important unless they're aspecting a personal planet to begin with. So I'd like to see asteroids touching personal planets in synastry or otherwise, honestly. you should do a little study into asteroids for sure. Yeah, I wouldn't get swept away by them. Any of you guys know Carmen? Which I'm not going to. I'll tag her here. I don't want to let me invite her. She is the asteroids master. I always refer her if I'm going to talk about asteroids. She would be the person to talk to. I know a pretty good bit about asteroids, but she knows even the ones that are kind of more, a little lesser known. She knows all about them. She's pretty amazing when it comes to that stuff. She had a whole website. I don't know if she still has it up or what, but it's pretty great. Oh yeah, totally. Invite Kevin if you want. But I'm gonna vape, you guys. I hope that's not like annoying to you or whatever, but you know. So, Black Moon Lilith in the 7th house. So falls under Virgo's cusp. So in whole sign, would that be in your 8th house? What's your rising sign? Does it aspect anything, Christopher? I've noticed that in men. Here's something that is rough. Oh. Don't bring that energy up in here. We don't need that. Yes. Yes. I definitely have noticed child playing a pretty significant role. Child asteroid, yeah. I've noticed that playing a pretty significant role. Capricorn. I was just saying today that Capricorn is a very hot rising sign. Ninth house what? Is Lilith aspecting something from there? Oh, look, Bethany left again. Wow, Bethany. I'm just gonna harass her every time she leaves. I'm gonna harass her. Yeah, Capricorn risings are just like chiseled. They're chiseled looking, just beautifully carved by the gods. That's how I view Capricorn rising. Oh. She called me a wench. Bethany called me a wench. She's the wench, not me. Mercury in 12 has to be very interesting. Are you one of those people who ghosts a lot, or like just kind of lurks and watches other people talking, but you won't actually say much of anything? Really, Sam? You just now realized that? You've been studying astrology for how long? Yeah, you should have an ego boost. Especially if Saturn is squaring your sun right now, you're gonna need it. And you've got the Capricorn rising, which can be kind of like, you know, self-critical anyway. Brandon, you're a wench. And I'm like only 10% wench, and Bethany is 99% wench. Oh, I would think that you had a difficult life. A difficult early life is what I would think. Yeah, I wouldn't say a subdued Aries. I've had my interactions with Sam. That would that would make me think he's not quite a subdued Aries, but yeah, can definitely be more sensitive. Oh, okay, by transit. Okay, so you're an early degree Aries then. Pondering another hard cider. Oh, so what house does the sun rule? What house is ruled by Leo in your chart? You're Capricorn rising, so that's the 8th house, right? So I'd say you're healing a lot of 8th house issues right now. You're healing a lot of it'll definitely be a hit to your ego. It'll be kind of like be a wound to your ego during this transit, I think, but it'll bring up a lot of healing too. A lot of healing influence with Chiron conjunct your sun. And being that the sun is the 8th house, I thought you were Capricorn rising. Okay, so that would be your 9th house. So it'll be kind of a hit to your ego, and it'll bring up some issues regarding your ego. It'll be sensitive. It'll be kind of a sensitive period of time. You'll be feeling like a wound to your ego for sure. Some events might take place that are kind of a hit to your pride, might hurt your pride a little bit. But being that it's, Chiron, the wounded healer, not just the wound. So Chiron being the wounded healer can really be a healing influence for you. It can definitely bring up a lot of pain, and it'll be kind of like a trigger. So it's not necessarily going to be that real-time events are really causing a painful wound for you. What's really going to be happening is that Chiron might bring some events into your life that trigger an older wound. So it might not even really be something that actually has the impact that you might attribute to it, if that makes any sense. It might just be something that makes you think of something older that happened to you, some kind of trauma that happened in your early life, or some kind of insecurity that you've always had that can make you really touchy, can trigger you. But because of that, Chiron transits are wonderful for shadow work, because basically what happens is, it brings up these wounds and shows you where the wound is, and brings it up for further inspection. The fact that it's happening in your 4th house can definitely mean that it has something to do with, your home environment, what's happening on a very deep personal heart level. And the fact that it is your 9th ruler can show that you are undergoing wounds regarding your beliefs and the things that, you've identified with as far as your belief system, your higher education, as well as wounds regarding people that you regard as teachers, people that you regard as, a guru of sorts, anybody that you kind of hold on a pedestal regarding 9th house matters, teachers, pastors, spiritual leaders, whatever. Those people can be kind of a catalyst for healing for you as well. And you can find a lot of healing through study and, higher education. So how's that feeling for you, Jennifer? And what does Venus rule in your chart? Healing with love, that's right. So, I have Gemini on my 12th house, and I just realized recently that I have a huge oral fixation. Since I've just been doing this broadcast, I've been drinking something, and then I've been vaping, and I've been putting on chapstick. It's like constant. What does Venus rule in your chart? What houses are ruled by Taurus and Libra in your chart? You might really be feeling like opposite Sam. You've got happening in your 10th house, so it can be kind of a hit to the way you feel you are perceived by the public. Insecurity issues. All of that is a catalyst for healing. Anything that comes up during these prominent transits are telling you to look at where that's coming from. So, shadow work, shadow work, shadow work. Chiron conjunct Venus. Aw, that's fantastic. I've had those kind of relationships too, with prominent Chiron that show you, can be a real healing influence. They turned out to be pretty bad relationships themselves, but they did show me that I could, move on from these old relationships that weren't so great. Leo Venus Princess. Sounds about right. Aries Sun, Pisces Moon, Mercury rising. Pisces Moon, interesting, with an Aries Sun. Mercury conjunct your ascendant. How does that feel? So weird, like I've got my phone up here recording the live stream, and then I've got my computer here so I can see what you guys are saying. And it's like I'm seeing the video of myself on the computer, and it's really weird because it's like got like a 30-second lag. So I'm seeing everything that I'm saying like 30 seconds prior. I've got it on mute, but I'm just like seeing everything that I was doing 30 seconds ago. Yeah, exactly. I don't even know that I think like people should have, long-term committed relationships, because, maybe, but relationships are to grow you. They're to help you evolve in some way. So these relationships, every relationship that comes into your experience is teaching you something. I've thought about recently, I think it'd be pretty good, probably something good for everyone to do, is to sit down and kind of analyze all past relationships that I've had and kind of write down like what kind of experiences those relationships were, and what I learned from them. Because every one of them are going to teach you something. I think my last relationship taught me a little bit about how to be selfless. How to be selfless. Yeah, you grow together until you grow apart, and then you can release them in love. If you love them to begin with, from a purely selfless level, from that higher perspective, if you love them from that place, then you can continue to love them in a different way. And that's one of the things I loved always about the movie The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, is that it shows kind of the evolution of love. How, they knew each other as friends when they were kids, and then they grew up and they fell in love, and then he started growing backwards, and she loved him as, a mother or a grandparent loves a child, and it was just kind of like the evolution of that relationship, and how, the love remained, but it changed shape. I thought that was so beautiful. I have Neptune and Uranus in my 7th house. Yep. Saturn in the 7th house. Definitely do that. Oh my god. That movie, it's like my favorite movie, and I haven't watched it in years because it just hits me so hard. Like, I have to be in a very specific mood to watch that movie. What rules your seventh, Natisha? It's literally my favorite movie, though. I think there's so many lessons there. So many lessons there about life and, I mean, about the evolution of love. What's that Mars and Libra like? Are they all conjunct? Oh man, that must be interesting. Oh man. Yeah, you've definitely got some yin and yang going on there, Damon. Chiron in the 7th. Definitely learning some, learning through pain in your interpersonal relationships. So, you know, your one-on-one relationships will definitely be a healing influence for you. And I'd say you're also attracted to people who are broken in some way or have issues to work out themselves, and you're really drawn to helping other people. You're really drawn to helping other people deal with their own emotional wounds. So, Chiron in the 7th, you'll definitely be drawing Chiron types. And Gemini can definitely help them heal through, you know, communication. You know, keeping regular contact with them, helping them learn about how to communicate effectively. It's going to be pretty important. Ooh, a lot of Scorpio moons up in here. We're going home. Feeling miserable. We're breaking promises we thought we could keep. It's our fault. Jupiter and Scorpio in your natal, that means you're going through a Jupiter return now, correct, Christopher? So you're probably pretty comfortable with the dark side, with Jupiter and Scorpio. You benefit from that stuff. Probably benefit from research and going deep within. I knew, as soon as I saw Jupiter was going into Scorpio, I was like, we're gonna be hearing some crap. The crap's about to hit the fan. And it did. Immediately. We started hearing about all these sexual harassment scandals. It was like insane. I was like, that is classic Jupiter and Scorpio stuff. Probably big on psychology too, right? Well, that's nice. That means your Jupiter is it conjunct their suns? Or at least one of theirs? Thought about listing Saturn retrograde reports in my store. I thought that might be cool. So you can get like a more in-depth look at what's going on with during Saturn retrograde for you. That would be a good idea. Especially if it's aspecting any personal planets while it's retrograde. I have a really weird relationship with this song. I really don't know what I think about it. Like, I loved it when I first heard it, and I was like, oh, I really don't know about this. It's kind of annoying. Like what, Christopher? Any examples you can think of? Probably gonna get off here in a second. Anybody have any questions, or particularly about Saturn retrograde? That's interesting. Very fascinating. Law history. Law and history, or law history? Like, together. Don't know. I really don't want to listen to this. What else can I listen to? Oh, this is a pretty one.
You and your team need to get things
Go.
done. Monday.com is easy, fun, and simple. Just add the workflow that suits you. Whether you're a small team or a big organization, everyone will know who's doing what. Click, drag, and drop to create your board exactly the way you want it.
I think that's a really positive manifestation of Saturn trine your Mars, Natisha, because it could be that they are watching you and they're like waiting for you to mess up, and like, so it's really nice that they're actually seeing and noticing what you're doing right and giving you more work. And if you're handling that well, this could be big for you. It can cause a lot of growth for you, because Saturn can be that a stabilizing influence. So with Saturn going retrograde, you might feel kind of stressed out. It's going to be really important for you to consciously take the time to de-stress and to make sure that you are getting the rest and relaxation that you need. But if you really pay attention to the work that you're being given right now and the things that are coming up, you can really grow from this. And I think it's really positive that they're actually paying attention to the good things that you're doing, and they want to reward you with more work. So make the best of the opportunities that come up. Oh yeah, that makes sense, Christopher. I haven't been doing a lot of live videos, Sam, but I'm going to start doing this more, because I really need to be more engaged. I've been mostly focusing on YouTube videos and things. I've got YouTube videos that I'm creating, but I think live videos are going to be good. Talk about current events and things like that. Michael's really great with the live videos. He does awesome. And he's so chill too. He's never seems nervous or anything. Probably because he's always drunk when he goes live. That drunk astrology. Alright guys, well I'm gonna get off here in a second. Anything else? Anything else you want covered while I'm on? I'll give y'all like 20 more seconds. You haven't, Sam? I thought you were in like every one of those. That's weird. Well, I don't mean rewarded with more work. I mean rewarded with better, being more compensated for your work. Like if it seems like they're giving you more responsibility to see how you handle it. And if you handle it well, then they'll reward you with better, more affluent position, more, a raise, whatever. Whatever kind of incentive they have going on for you where you're working, that, they would probably be rewarding you with that. That's awesome, Christopher. That's fantastic. Because you know what you were doing. You know what you're talking about. You really should participate in some of Michael's live videos. They're pretty great. He's funny. Thank you, Christopher. That's awesome. I appreciate it. Alright, you guys, have a great night. Sorry this wasn't too structured. It was just impromptu. I just wanted to, like, you know, get some stuff out there and see what you guys had questions about. So, yeah. Have a great night. I'll talk to you later.